And then as I scaled that business, a lot of my fitness friends were asking me, what are you doing behind the computer all the time? How do you make so much more money than us? Like, why are you on Zoom? This was 2017.
Yeah.
So I started helping my friends for free. And one friend turned into three. And then seven of us are sitting around my laptop every Thursday in between clients. And I sort of brought a couple of my friends through their first digital launch. And the first friend I did, she made an $80,000 in her first launch. I said, I'm pretty good at writing curriculum from being a teacher. I think I have to start charging for this.
Hello, and welcome back to Beyond Common Business Secrets. We have an amazing special guest with us today, Jessica Glazer DeRose. Thank you so much for being here.
Tracey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. Jessica is a former celebrity personal trainer and elementary school teacher. So Jess once turned her cute little, I love that you call it this too, a cute little side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business in under 2 years. So we are all about empowering women to break through that ceiling of not conforming to being, only 2% of women that ever hit $1 million in business. So that's why we have Jess here with us today, because she is going to share some of the magic that she creates for business owners to make the millions with their brilliance. So Jessica, thank you.
Yeah, Tracey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are so happy you're here. So tell me a little bit about your story. I love that you were a school teacher and a celebrity trainer, because it's like, what that says to me is like nurturing, loving, and kick you in the butt. And I always say that I'm like a loving kick in the pants or a velvet hammer. So I mean,
yes. Oh, a velvet hammer. I've never heard that. I like that. My clients, when I give a little bit of tough love, they say spicy Jess. They're like, oh, spicy Jess is here. I'm like, yeah, well, better watch out.
I like spicy. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, I could go so far back. So I am the founder and CVO, the visionary officer of Digital Business Evolution, which is our company. I'm also the podcast host for Digital Business Evolution. Speaker, philanthropist, investor, all the things that you see in the bio. But where does my story start? I mean, really, the bio is sexy and says that I built this multi-million-dollar business in under 2 years, which is true. However, that is not true at all, because at the time that I hit my first million, I was in my early 30s. And so it took me 30 years or something to build that. And really, I got into the online space in 2012. So over a decade ago, I was working full-time as an elementary school teacher. Like you said, I did that for 8 years. I was a physical therapy doctorate dropout. So I dropped out of my first year of my doctorate program, decided it just wasn't for me. I lived on my brother's couch in New York City for a year, as all good Northeast kids do, living on their friends' or siblings' couch. I worked in the fashion industry for a year when I was living on his couch, thinking that that was something that I wanted to do. Turns out it was not.
You're like, I'm in New York. Why not? Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Right. Exactly.
So I ended up going to my fallback. It was really my plan C. My parents had sort of, I'll say, lovingly encouraged, forced me to get a teaching degree to fall back on. And it really was my plan C. And so I didn't want to do it purely because my ego said that I didn't want to do it. And I did. So I taught elementary school for 8 years, and I was a personal trainer for 18 years. So in 2012, I had already been a trainer for a decade. I started doing bodybuilding competitions, as one does. And so I would get home from school at 3:25. My husband was getting home at like 9:00 at night, commuting into New York City back to New Jersey. And so I wanted to fill my time. And so I started doing bodybuilding competitions. I was paying my coach, who lived in Massachusetts, and she was sending me email workouts and macros. And I was paying her virtually. This was in 2012. So I had this light bulb moment. Wow, I've been a trainer for a decade. All my friends from college, all my friends from high school, none of us live in the same state anymore. Let me just reach out to them via email and see if anybody wants me to train them. And so a lot of them said they did. And so in 2012, my friends were literally writing checks in the mail, snail mailing them to me, $79 a month. And I was training my friends virtually. So I never thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't think I was going to start a business. I come from a family of doctors, lawyers, and accountants. I already felt like a failure, dropping out of my doctorate program. And so I just did it as a cute little side hustle. And I started to learn about the industry. And at the time, 10 years ago, ebooks were really popular and blogging was really popular and people were doing paid Facebook groups. So that's what I did. I would come home from school and I'd work on my cute little side hustle, and I got involved in a network marketing company as well. And so I'd cold call. I do these power hours every day after school, where for an hour I would literally cold call brides from a list of brides that I got
Oh,
hosting
wow.
bridal expos,
But how smart given what you were doing. I mean, still smart,
hustling.
it's just a lot of work.
Yeah, hustling. I got 1,000% no's. I don't
Oh,
even think anyone picked up the phone, but I got in the reps and I worked through a lot of mindset stuff. And so I digress. I did that for 5 years while I was working full time as a teacher and a trainer. And it just kind of was a fun little thing. I was driving to work in 2016, October 2016. It was my 8th year working as a teacher. And I was listening to a podcast, and this man was interviewing this woman who was a teacher. And this is a really important story. So she
I
was a
love
teacher. She sold jewelry on Etsy. Now, remember, I worked in the fashion industry. I was selling jewelry. I had these cute side hustles. I was a teacher. So I'm like in the dashboard listening, like he's talking to me.
this is my person.
This is my person. He said, okay, if you gave yourself, this woman, a year to go all in on the jewelry business and it didn't work out, what would be your worst case scenario? So she said, I don't know. I'll just go back to being a teacher. I might have to go to a different district, but I know I could get a job. I've been doing it for 10 years. And his answer changed my life. He said, oh, how does it feel to wake up every day and live in your worst case scenario? Oh my goodness. I pulled the car over on the highway. I was bawling my eyes out. I texted my husband. I said, I can't do this anymore. This was October 2016. I wasn't living in my worst case scenario, but I was not living in my best case scenario. And when I realized that if I could remove my ego, because ego is your biggest overhead, it's costing us the most. If I could remove my ego and get a job that I thought I was above, or get another part-time thing that I thought I was too good for, I was too old for. I was 33 years old. We were married with a mortgage. We had a house. Who am I to go back to a job that maybe I had in college or high school? But if I could remove my ego and ask for help and get a mentor and invest in myself, then I really was already living in not my worst case scenario, but I wasn't very far away from it. I also realized that this worst case scenario of not having food on the table, not being able to pay the bills, not having a home to sleep in, the gap was big for us. And I know I'm very privileged to say that, but a lot of chips would have to fall before we were on the street. I mean, we could sell a car. We had 2 cars. We didn't need 2 cars. Like, there were so many things we could have done. So that night, my husband and I sat down and we plugged the numbers. How long could we literally last on his salary? How long could we make it? About 3 weeks later, I walked into my principal's office and I resigned. And, my cute side hustle was bringing in about $300 a month. So I had not replaced my income. Now, I don't think everybody should do that, but for me, I'm a burn the boats type of girl. So I walked into his office, I resigned. What then happened over the next 5 years, which brings us to today, is that I was able to take my cute side hustle to a multi-million-dollar business really, really quickly. I mean, we hit our first 6 figures within that first month. I was multiple 6 figures within the first couple months. And not because I had anything special or different. It was sort of opportunity meets preparation, timing, luck, and having the time and capacity to go all in. And so I ran both for a long time. I was doing health and fitness coaching online and as well as in person, and lots of TV and media and fitness modeling. And then as I scaled that business, a lot of my fitness friends were asking me, what are you doing behind the computer all the time? How do you make so much more money than us? Like, why are you on Zoom? This was 2017.
Yeah.
So I started helping my friends for free, and one friend turned into 3, and then 7 of us are sitting around my laptop every Thursday in between clients. And I sort of brought a couple of my friends through their first digital launch. And the first friend I did, she made an $80,000 in her first launch. I said, I'm pretty good at writing curriculum from being a teacher. I think I have to start charging for this. And so for the first few years of business, I did both. I did health and fitness coaching, and I was still doing business coaching. And in 2020, after 18 years in fitness, I finally let my certifications expire, all like 400 of them,
There's-
and just went straight into the business stuff. And so that's what we've been doing ever since.
So do you feel like your heart was called to serve the purpose of business coach?
Yeah, absolutely. And it happened really organically.
Mhm.
Honestly, I've never taken a formal business marketing economics class in my life. I was a physical therapy major with a, you know, education minor. I mean, I never have done that. But over the years, now 10 years, I mean, I hired my first business mentor in 2014. So I've been investing in it and learning for so many years, but I've really just learned through experience.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you made that, the distinction of burning the boat and saying, I'm going to just let this license for fitness expire and I'm going all in here. How did that feel for you?
It was time. I mean, when I left my teaching job, I probably should have left 2 years earlier. If I'm being completely honest, I was very unhappy. I love kids. I love teaching. I was a phys ed teacher. There's literally nothing better than being an elementary school phys ed teacher, like scooters and parachutes,
Yeah,
but
they're so fun.
it's so fun. But for me, I was also doing bodybuilding competitions and going to Tony Robbins events and reading personal development books. And so I felt very out of place in my world, in my life, in my school. And it's unfortunate for me to say this, and I've expressed this before, but one of the reasons I left was because of the environment that I was working in. And it just was a very unsupportive environment. I sort of got picked on by the other teachers for eating out of plastic baggies and watching, carrying my gallon jug around. And why are you reading those books? And I used to walk around saying, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire, because I was doing network marketing at the time. And that was laughable. I made $45,000 a year as a teacher. How are you going to be a millionaire? And it was unsupportive. So I wasn't brave. I didn't quit and jump and like grow my wings on the way down. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was suffocating. And so if you've been in an elementary school recently, you know that the toilets are literally very small to the ground, right? Like the chairs are low, the ceilings are low. And for me, it felt like year after year, I was like collapsing and getting smaller as opposed to growing and getting bigger. And so I was suffocating. I felt like I had no other choice.
It's so interesting. I've been doing a lot of personal growth and development trainings for teachers of elementary schools
Ooh.
lately. And it is a different, like I was been surprised about the pushback. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Right. As somebody so I feel you.
Yeah.
And we might be like soul sisters because I had a similar situation. Like I owned a very successful salon for a very long time and loved it, but because of all the stuff I was studying, personal growth development, it was getting harder to maintain the environment of like, listen, beauty should come from the inside out. What is happening here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel you that like the signs are there. And what, if Jack Canfield calls the yellow alerts, like you knew it was there, but you waited until it was absolutely red. Like you have to stop now and just like jump out of a building that's on fire. Right.
Yes.
So, so I, love that you walked us through that, because I think so often people don't realize they have a choice. And if you bring some awareness, that's not the environment you wanted to be in. Like you want to eat healthy. You shouldn't be made fun of for eating healthy. Like,
yeah.
So,
and it's easy to say when you're listening, right? Like there's eye rolls from people listening to us. Yeah, but, right. It's like, I don't have a choice. Yeah, but. And again, I'm aware of the privilege that I had. My husband had a job. My parents lived nearby. We could move in it with them if we needed to. Again, removing the ego, 33 years old with a house and mortgage, I'm married. Like I shouldn't have to do those things, but also I was selling clothing on Facebook. Like I was going through my closet, selling clothing, doing whatever I needed to do to make ends meet. And I do believe that there is always a choice. And certainly in the job that I was in, I worked with 38 women who hated me. I mean, I would go all out on my bulletin boards. It was like my favorite thing to do. I went to art school. I love that type of stuff. And it would be, Miss Glazer is making her bulletin boards like so fancy again. Like we look bad now, could you stop trying so hard? And I'm like, I'm an elementary school teacher. This is supposed to be fun, So it was tough.
So having that happen, right? Like that tough environment, what do you think that's prepared you for in what you're doing now?
Oh man. Well, definitely putting myself out there on social media, right? We're so vulnerable sharing different parts of our lives, our opinions as a mentor, as a coach, as a thought leader. Thought leaders' jobs are to teach people how to think. And so I'm constantly offering new perspective and insight. And what's interesting is I look back sometimes at some videos of myself when my husband and I were living in New York City, right after we had, left my job as a teacher, and I'm bopping around New York, walking on my Instagram stories every single day, just ignorant bliss. And there are things that I said then that I even now 5 years later, 6 years later, I'm like, wow, I don't agree with that anymore. And I had such confidence in what I was saying. So putting yourself out there, you open yourself up for feedback. I don't really get trolls. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful that I don't. We have a great community online, but I've definitely had some nasty comments, especially we tried ads for about a year and whew, when you run ads, oh man, the people come out of the woodworks and it's just mean things that have nothing to do. Like you're ugly. Like, okay. Just
Well, thank you so
comments like
much.
that. Yeah. Like,
God bless you. Like,
yeah. Right. I'm like,
I
did you hear
always,
what I said?
yeah, I look at it like, oh, I mean, I really just want to say God bless you, because
Right.
if you are taking the time to reach out to me, tell me I'm ugly, I'm like, you're in pain.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that is the sad thing. You brought up an interesting point about putting yourself out there that I
Mhm.
think we need to touch on, because we get asked this on the podcast all the time. And it's one of those things. I remember this kept me from writing a book for years. I was stuck in fear because I knew the day after I hit done, I would learn more, because we're always
Yes.
learning and growing. So sometimes, so can you walk us through? Because I think the idea of how you're so great at organic marketing. So we love to hear that from you, and putting it out there where, you're going to develop new beliefs, but you can still put it out there
Yeah.
and show what you've learned. Because some people are like, well, what if it's wrong tomorrow? Well, what if it's
Yeah.
today?
Right. Yeah. We really take the approach, and this is what we teach our clients too. There's come with me, and then there's look at me. And so a lot of people approach social media with look at me, look at me, look at what I've done, look at what I've done for my clients, look at what I've built, look at how much weight I've lost, look, 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 look. When you can take an approach of come with me, hey, come, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm currently doing. This is what's currently working. This is what I'm trying. This is what I'm testing. Are you interested in it? Look at what I'm reading, right? It's a friendlier approach of less ego and more service, which I think just sets you up foundationally for, not that pivoting and changing your mind is not okay, but when you have a foundation of come with me, it's almost expected because I'm taking you on my journey of growth and evolution. And so during my journey of growth and evolution, naturally are going to come pivots and different things that I'm thinking and different people that I'm meeting and different ways that I approach my life. There's also something about that. It sort of gives you, the business owner, permission to change your mind and say, well, yeah, then, and that's what I thought. And now this is what I think. One of the best examples I have, and this is integrity, right? I mean, my core value is integrity as a person, as our business. If you asked me 5 years ago on your podcast what my morning routine was, oh my goodness, I would tell you like the 6 things that I did, and they had to be in this perfect order. It was 18 minutes for this and 12 minutes for this and 11 minutes for this. And at 7:01, I was doing this. And now I completely disagree with everything that I used to say. But I can say that, and I can say that with integrity, and I can say that with pride, because I've grown. And is what I'm saying today right? No. And might it change in the future? Yes. And I can say that. So it's really just about taking a come with me approach rather than a look at me approach. And it makes you a little bit more human and a little bit more trustworthy, a little bit more relatable. And it's less about putting on a show. So really that's the approach that I take, and admitting when I'm wrong and letting people know when I've changed my mind and being okay with that. And that's being a thought leader, right? It's like, this is what I'm going through.
So what would you say is that the sort of difference between, when it comes to people practically applying this to grow organically in their
Yeah.
marketing, what's the little dial that we need to change? So because
Mm,
that's something I struggle with that. And I'm like, oh, does this sound braggy? Does it sound like I'm like
yeah.
complaining? So sometimes, like, if you can walk us through how to make it sound like come with me rather than, oh, look at me, it's about me. I
Yeah.
always say that that's the funny thing about, like, the friend that's like, oh, enough about you, back to me.
Mm,
Like, no, we always want to come off as genuinely caring. And sometimes it's really hard to do that digitally.
yeah.
So if
Especially
you
with
could share
marketing.
how we turn that dial, oh, our
Yeah.
audience would love that. And myself included.
Yeah. I love the terminology dial. For the analogy I'm going to give. Let's use a thermostat or like a ladder, because I want to have the visual of us like going up something. It could be vertical, it could be horizontal, but we're like moving linearly. So there's 3 different types of expert. Most of us think that we have to be the very last type in order for us to show up as authority, credibility, clout, to have a business. And this is why a lot of us sit in the procrastination of, I don't know enough yet. I'm not ready yet. I need another certification, so on and so forth. I am not saying disclaimer that you don't need a certification. I am just saying you might not need more of them.
You don't
So
need 27.
you do not need 27, and you do not need 27 to start. And here's why. So there's 3 different types of expert. We have the research, the role model, and the results. So the research expert, and the cool thing is you are all of these in all areas of your life, and you can toggle from one to the other. So a research expert is someone who is researching. I'm trying, I'm doing, I'm testing, I'm taking this class, I'm learning this thing, I'm reading this book. Also, this person is someone who says, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to find out. So research is when you're really sitting in curiosity. We do this all the time. All of us.
I'm a researcher by heart. Like those personality books, Spark, they're like, you research for the fun of learning.
Yes,
so
I love learning. Most of us do though, because when we learn, we grow and we feel productive and we feel important and we feel good about ourselves, fulfilled. So let's say, for example, you're learning how to play guitar, but you're a fitness coach and you help people lose weight. You're currently a research expert in guitar. And you could choose, if you want, to share small parts of that on your social media, even though it, quote, has nothing to do with your business. And I put that in quotes because it has everything to do with your business. Because people buy from people, and we're multidimensional and we're multi-passionate. So because you are learning to play guitar as a trainer, if there's another trainer out there who's not learning how to play guitar, a client might actually choose you for that one reason, even if it's subconscious. So a research expert is where we're in the literally come with me phase. I'm reading this book, I'm listening to this podcast, come with me. I'm learning about AI, right? Like, so cool. From there, going up the ladder, we then move to role model expert. As you start to get a little bit more knowledge, get a little bit more experience, you could share a little bit more effortlessly. You might not always have to run back to research to find out what the answer is. You now innately become a role model. So now you can actually like play a couple chords. And even if you're not considered to be like a very good guitar player and you're not where you want to be, you're definitely a couple steps ahead of someone who doesn't even own a guitar yet. And they're just dreaming about taking lessons. They're in the research phase of buying a guitar. You can strum a couple notes. And so now, wow, you're a role model expert. And then the third and final one is when we go up the ladder completely, you become a results expert. When you're a results expert, you've gotten results for yourself and or other people. So now you can play a whole song. Maybe you're not John Mayer, but you can play a whole song. And so I look at you as, wow, this person knows how to play guitar. How cool. I wish I could play guitar. And so in any area of our life, we can go from research to role model to results expert. That's literally how we go through the chain. However, there are some areas of our lives where we'll just always stay in research because we don't actually care enough. We don't really want to put in the work. It's just not there for us. And there are some areas of our life where we stay in the role model stage. But my point here is that you don't actually have to be a results expert in order to help anybody. You just need to be one step ahead of them. So for the person who wants to start a business but isn't, because they're not the results expert yet, just know that for somebody, you're a role model. And for somebody, you're in the research phase. And that in itself is ahead of the other person.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you simplified that explanation, because that comes up often. Like, oh, who am I to tell anybody how to do this? I'm like, you've done more than most people, right?
Yes.
But like having it break down into like 3 distinct areas of expertise is really, really cool. How does that apply when you walk people through? Because I know you do a lot of coaching on how to do digital programs and stuff. And that seems like it fits in nicely. So please share that with us, like, because people ask this kind of stuff all the time. They're like, ooh, I don't know anyone that does that.
Yeah. So for us, that's really like the foundation of the mindset before we even get into the business stuff. So it's really important to sort of work through that. You can see what you're an expert at, sort of extract your personal experience, your lived experiences, your skill set, what people know you for, what people ask you for, maybe what you do in your 9-to-5 job, what you went to college for, right? If you did. So there's so many different things that we can look at. Once we know that, then we can understand really what your purpose is. So I'm a huge believer that we do not build businesses based on passion. We should be building them on purpose. So if you look up the definition of passion, it is uncontrollable emotion. That's literally the definition. So if we were building our business on uncontrollable emotion, then that's telling me that we are building something that is not sustainable, that is not safe, that does not have a clean foundation. uncontrollable emotion sounds like a giant crack down the middle. And so if you're anything like me, multi-passionate, 1 month I want to learn guitar, the next month I'm taking dance class, the next month I'm like honing in on vegan, gluten-free recipes, thinking I'm going to be a little Miss Baker. And so if we were constantly building our business on passion, we'd be jumping ship all the time. So rather, understanding your skill set, your expertise, that's all part of your why, which is your purpose. Once we know that, then we can dive into the juicy things. And so for us, really what that is the foundations, then the marketing, and then the sales. And that's really how we break it down for our clients. So within foundations, that could be anything from behind the business, setting up your LLC, your business bank account, et cetera, appropriate payment options, not PayPal and not Venmo, right? And then on the forward facing side of things, it's going to be more of like your niche and your ideal client, understanding messaging, verbiage, so on and so forth. After we nail down the foundations, we can finally move into marketing, which is the place that people usually want to start. So the big mistake that a lot of coaches are making is that they're jumping right into well, what should I post? And it's like, well, who are you talking to? What is the problem that you solve? What is the purpose of your business? Let's go back before we can go forward. Yeah.
The foundation, so important.
Yeah.
Well, because it's going to get hard. It's going to get scary. Right.
Newsflash.
and then for those of us that are I'm just like a creator all the time, right? Like if I didn't have a clear sense of purpose of the greater good and mission, then I'd be changing careers every time the wind blew, like popcorn. And
we
that
put a lot
would
of
not help anyone.
Yeah. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with mission or vision, where it's like, oh my gosh, my 10-year vision is, and I'm going to change the world and sell this company. And it's like, no. Your vision or your mission or your purpose, it's just the target on the dartboard. You just need to know where you're going. If you remember back in the day, we used to go to the mall. And so when you'd go to the mall, you'd get there, you're like, okay, I need to go get shoes. I'm going to go to Steve Madden. So you go to the directory and you look for the store and you find the store Steve Madden on the directory. But after you go to the directory and find Steve Madden, Tracey, what do you have to find on the map after Steve Madden?
How you're getting there.
Right. You are here. You just need to know where you are.
Right?
Otherwise, you don't know if you're like, did you have to go left to go to like,
is it on the 5th floor and I'm on the 2nd? Like, you have to know where you are. Right? It's so critical that the GPS system, like that is one of the things I coach on all the time. I'm like, if you cannot be honest with yourself about where you are, you can have that destination all day. Yeah. But you could be like on a different cloud and not even on Earth at this point. Like we got to get this grounded in here.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's true because even like your GPS, your phone, you can put in where some destination, but if it's signaling around and it can't figure out where you are, it doesn't tell you the first move. It sits there until it picks up the signal.
And if you're too vague, it's not going to get you there. So if you type in New York City, you're not getting to the Empire State Building. It's just going to bring you through the Lincoln Tunnel or over the GW Bridge. And then you're going to be overwhelmed and stressed out because you don't know where to go.
Right. Or the edge of New York City when you're coming in or something crazy. Like I'd like to go around. No, that's hilarious. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. How can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah. So
I know people need what you have to offer. You are so brilliant and so you are multifaceted in every way. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you. I received that. We are on literally every platform. So come find us on YouTube, TikTok, wherever, Instagram. I hang out personally most on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I love voice memoing people. So I am Jessica DeRose. We've got our podcast, Digital Business Evolution. We drop 2 episodes every single week. And would you be open to a gift?
I would love it.
Okay. So we didn't get into any of the nitty gritty today, but we talked a lot about social media. Social media is a list that you borrow. So if Zucks decides to shut it all down tomorrow, or, we have a problem with it, it gets hacked or whatever, we have no way of reaching our people. And so we want to make sure that we're always building a list that we own. So my team and I have put together an incredible training. It should not be free, but it is. And it's a 10 video training all around how you can build and grow your email list. You can do this for fast. You can do this for free. And we have 10 different videos in there. There's a workbook to go along with it, but this is going to be the how, the where, the what, the when, the how, all of it, the why. And we actually walk you through video tutorials of putting together your actual landing pages. There's email subject lines in there for you to make sure that people are actually opening your emails. So I'd love to gift that to your audience to make sure that we're not just building on social media.
Yes, I love it. We're all about building the list around here. We'll include the link in the show notes. So go ahead and check that out. And definitely give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and tell us how much you love Jess. She's amazing. So thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you on the next one.